Hello everyone. My name is Chetan. I welcome you all to this fifth Indoor MuleSoft meetup event. Agendas for today is we are going to have introduction about what Microsoft Dynamics 365 is, how we can integrate with Microsoft Dynamics 365 CRM using MuleSoft, specifically Mule 4, followed by the demo, the QA, and quiz. To make it more interactive, we can have a QA and section in between the uh, session and demo. You can you are free to put your questions and queries in the chat box. We can convey it to the speaker and they will answer your queries. So before moving on to our session, I would like to introduce the organizers of this meetup group. As you know me already, I introduced earlier. Adding to that, I work as an associate solution architect at Epicero, and I am a certified integration architect and contributing to MuleSoft community as a mentor, leader, and forum contributor. That's in short about me. I have Anand and Shivam with uh, me. Anand, you wanna say hi to everyone and introduce yourself?
Yeah. Hello, everyone. My name is Anand Joshi, and I have more than 7 years of experience in MuleSoft. And I'm a certified MuleSoft architect, and I'm a meetup leader for Indoor Group, and I'm also serving the community as a MuleSoft mentor.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, Shivam, please go ahead.
Yeah, I hope you guys can hear me.
Yes, we can.
Yes,
Sorry about the
we can.
background. It's a lot of light behind me. So yeah, my name is Shubham Khandelwal, and I'm a MTS in Salesforce. I'm a certified MuleSoft platform architect as well, along with the developer certification. And I have around 8 years of experience. And that photo in this slide is like a 6-year-old photo. A lot of things have changed now. I've put on like a ton of weight. So yeah, you cannot match it with my actual face, but yeah, it is me, and I'm happy to connect with you guys again. And let's see what's there in store for us today. Thank you.
Great. That's a nice introduction by our organizers. Moving forward, we have Arnab with us today. He will be sharing his expertise with all of us. Arnab is working as a senior lead engineer at Epicero and is a certified platform architect with having 2+ of years of experience in integrations. He's already excelling at his learning trajectory on this technology. So Arnab, you want to say hi to everyone and introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure, Chetan. Thanks. So first, I'd like to thank Chetan, Anand, and Shivam for inviting me in the Indore MuleSoft meetup. Uh, I'm although not from Indore, I stay in Kolkata, the city of joy. But yeah, thanks for inviting me in this meetup. So I've been working for the past 2 years with MuleSoft in Epicero, and I'm currently working as a senior lead engineer here. Uh, my career started with Salesforce though, and then I shifted to MuleSoft. So that's what is kind of the formal introduction. And in terms of MuleSoft, I've worked with several cloud services like Azure, AWS, GCP, and a lot of other end systems. And a good amount of that experience has been integrating with multiple sales enablement and CRM systems. So, and that includes Salesforce, Microsoft Dynamics, HubSpot, Outreach, Salesloft, and a lot of other systems. So yeah, that has been my experience. And Microsoft Dynamics CRM is something that we'll be covering today. Thanks, Chetan. Thanks, Anand. Thanks, everyone. Once more.
Great. No, we are lucky to have you here. Like it's all our honor. So moving forward, before that, we have a safe harbor statement here. Like we are not promoting any of our organizations, or this event is not meant for any promotional activities. It's only for learning purpose, and the solutions which we're gonna discuss over this session may or may not fit into your use case. So, Arnab, stage is yours. Maybe I'll just stop sharing and you can share your screen.
Sure. Thanks, Chetan. Second, share my screen. Okay. I hope my screen is visible, right?
Yes.
Right, it's visible.
Okay. So yeah. I welcome everyone who have made some time on this weekend evening, and we'll be going through the Dynamics 365 CRM concepts. We'll be taking it in a very simplified manner, and I'll try to make it as relatable as possible in terms of Salesforce and database systems, so that we all can relate on how Dynamics is instead of starting from scratch. So I'll try to go along with all the concepts, and we'll be having a short demo on how do we connect with Microsoft Dynamics, how do we uh, configure the connector, and how do we do some queries and retrieve some data from Microsoft Dynamics CRM. So yeah, let's get started. So the first slide that says like what is Microsoft Dynamics 365. So Dynamics 365 is a product suite by Microsoft, of course, that comes in a product line of ERP or enterprise resource planning and CRM as well. So for today's session, we'll be focusing on Dynamics 365 CRM specifically. That's used by a lot of people from sales and services and all that. We know that Salesforce is arguably the most common CRM across the CRM market, and we being MuleSoft resources, we mostly deal with Salesforce. However, Microsoft Dynamics has been a good emerging option for a lot of companies. The reason being that it integrates out of the box with other Microsoft suite of products. So if someone already has an Azure subscription, maybe Teams, Office, and all that, so it integrates well within that ecosystem. And any Azure admins, if the organization already has Azure admins and ops team from Azure, so they are very familiar with the interface, and it's easier for them to manage, easier for them to train, and the learning curve is quite low for them. And it's built on top of MS SQL Server. Basically, behind the scene, everything is an MS SQL Server database. So the kind of syntaxes we follow or the concepts we follow are very much similar to those. So that's kind of the most engaging part of any customer who is trying to explore the CRM world. Now, the problem with this whole Dynamics 365 integration with MuleSoft is a lot of outdated and distributed documentation that's available over the internet. The reason being, Dynamics has gone through a lot of UI changes, a lot of UI overhauls, a lot of conceptual changes, how it manages the data and everything. So they have kind of shifted a lot from what the blogs or what the internet says. That's one of the points that I'll try to cover. And so there are, and also that there are very few any point on MuleSoft specific documentation or community forums or blogs available over the internet. So that's something that, these are the gaps that I'm trying to fill here. And yeah, so let's get started with our actual content. So yeah, as I said, I'll keep it very Salesforce and database ish, so that it's relatable. So first of all, anything that's a table or anything that's an object in Salesforce is an entity in Dynamics. So whenever we say entity, it's a table in terms of database, and it's an object in terms of Salesforce. So for example, account, contact, opportunity, lead, and all those, anything that comes in a regular sales sales workflow, or anything in service workflow or anything like that. So anything that's a table or an object is an entity. Anything that we refer to as fields in Salesforce and databases like feeds or columns is called attributes in Dynamics. For example, first name, last name, email, modified on, created on, anything that is a field is called an attribute in Dynamics. The primary key or ID for each of the table. So if you have worked earlier with Salesforce, you know that Salesforce has an ID column in every object or every table or every entity. That's not the case with Dynamics. In Dynamics, every primary key is prefixed with that object name. So for example, account ID is the primary key for account table, contact ID, lead ID, opportunity ID, and so on and so forth. Now, it does not necessarily always follow an object name plus ID syntax. For example, there's a table or entity called activity pointer. So by going with that, with this convention, it should have been an activity pointer ID, whereas it's not. It's called an activity ID. So this is just one of the exceptional examples. But yeah, it's just to say that there is no only ID column in Dynamics. It's always prefixed with something or the other, or what that entity represents. Entity sets. So any group of entities is called an entity set. So for example, it's if there are multiple account records, so those are combined and it's called an accounts, right? It's just the plural form of a regular entity. That's called an entity set. And Microsoft has an API called Microsoft Web API, and that Web API uses entity set terminologies. Why this is important, I'll come to that when we are going through the demo and everything. So for example, when you want to run a query on Dynamics, you need to write select account ID from accounts, and it's not account, unlike maybe Salesforce or database. So yeah, and we'll cover this in the demo as well. Okay, the fifth point is in terms of how you explore the internet in terms of Dynamics 365 CRM. So a lot of the documentations will refer Dynamics 365 CRM as Dynamics 365 CE. CE stands for customer engagement, and it's Dynamics 365 CRM, but it's the on-prem version of that. So when I started exploring Dynamics, I had a very hard time figuring out the CE docs because I thought it's not relatable to my use case, whereas it was. So anything that says customer engagement, those concepts or those attributes or anything like that also applies for Dynamics 365 CRM. And as I said, the web APIs, that web API is what our MuleSoft connector will also use internally. So we'll go through those, we'll go through debug logs and everything in the demo. So that's a basic cheat sheet that I would say to start with Dynamics. So we have entities, attributes, primary keys, group of entities or entity sets, and Microsoft Web APIs. Okay. Now these are some of the useful links and navigations. The reason I put this slide here is in terms of Salesforce or in terms of database, you just log into the database and as an admin, and you have everything in that screen and you have everything in that view. In Salesforce, if you log into Salesforce, you just go to setup, and anything that you want to do with the structure of the data, you can do it in that portal or in that link itself. Whereas Dynamics is a bit distributed in terms of management and in terms of admins. So first comes Azure portal, which is Azure Active Directory. So that's where you need to create your OAuth applications. You need to retrieve client ID secrets, or if you want to allow some scopes or something like that. That's an Azure portal. The next is the Dynamics 365 CRM link. So the link would look like your instance name. It will be something random if it's a trial account, or it will be your customers or your own instance name. .crm.dynamics.com. That's your data view. That's what the users will use to view records, to navigate between apps and or like that. Microsoft 365 admin is another page that lets you control the user licenses, how many, and it lets you manage your subscriptions. Next comes is Power Platform admin, which is the admin part of the whole Dynamics point of view. And so there are two things. One is a Power Platform Admin, and another is called Power Apps, just below that. So there is a subtle difference between these two, and a lot of the blogs and a lot of the documentations does not always clearly mention where you have to go in order to make those changes. So if I simplify that, a Power Platform Admin is a page where you want to manage your users, your application users, or your environments. Whereas Power Apps is kind of a particular environment dependent changes. So if you want to see what are the fields in a particular table, what are the API names of that, and what are the data length of those, what are the different relationships between objects, that's in Power Apps. So there's a subtle difference between Power Platform Admin and Power Apps. So going forward, any slide I need either of these, I've clearly mentioned that, okay, this is Power Platform Admin and it's not Power Apps, or the vice versa of it. Okay. I know it might sound like a lot of theories, but we'll go through all of these links and see how they look like. Okay, so a trial account setup and navigation. So I'll quickly go through the slides, and as well as I'll go through the actual view of it as well. Now, here's a small disclaimer from my end. So everything I'm covering in this PPT is based on Web API version 9.1, which is the current version, I believe, and MuleSoft Dynamics Connector version 2.5, which came out last year only. And if you are using a different version, you might see some changes, because Dynamics usually goes through a lot of visual overhauls and a lot of other conceptual changes as well, very frequently. Okay, now in order to create a trial account, you need to go to dynamics.microsoft.com and you need to create a trial account there. Once done, you usually have a trial account for 30 days and you can renew it for another 30 days. But that renewal is only applicable for once. So once done, you need to log into this account, and the URL is dynamics.microsoft.com. So I'll just quickly stop sharing that and I'll show the actual page where I'm logged in. Right. So this is how the screen looks like for Dynamics 365 CRM. Once you are logged in, you will see this link, dynamics.microsoft.com, and this is where you can go to your Dynamics 365 home. So I'll just quickly click on that. So as I said, when I started exploring Dynamics, so there's a lot of options in terms of any CRM systems. The websites are pretty heavy, and there's a lot of options, a lot of buttons, a lot of links. So I'll try to make that easier for you to navigate. So from here, the first thing that you need to do is go to Power Apps and generate a particular environment for yourself. So I'll just go to Power Apps, and these all are part of the PPT as well. I'm just doing that in browser itself. So this is your Power Apps page, and inside this page you have an option to select an environment. So for example, I'm in this environment now, or I can shift to a new environment like that. As I said, Power Apps is something very environment dependent, and also what we can do in Power Apps. So the first thing that we are going to use heavily is solutions. Solutions is a group of attributes and a group of workflows inside Dynamics. So if you go to solutions, you'll see by default a lot of options. Now these are something that's not very useful for our demo in this particular context. What we'll explore is, if you scroll down to the bottom of it, you will see an option called default solution. So this default solution is something that will be mostly covering through. Any other solution is something that's custom made, or it's provided by default when you create this instance. Now, what is default solution? If you go inside default solution, this is equivalent to a setup page of Salesforce, where you can see your fields, you can see your attributes, you can see your relationships, and like that. Just give it some time to load. Okay. So once you're inside that, you can see all of your apps or all of your catalogs, chatbots, or anything that's specific to this particular instance. So make sure that when you are navigating through Power Apps, you always have a proper environment selected. Otherwise, you might be doing it for some other environment and it might get a bit messy in that case. So make sure you are in the correct environment. And once here, you'll see an option that says tables. So there are 845 tables in here. So tables again is what is entities, right? So you can either go inside tables and see what are all the tables we have, or you can just directly go here and search for your particular table. For example, let's say account. So this is our accounts table. And again, this is the structural view of it. And in the first tab that it will load, it will show you the columns. Just give it a second. Yeah. So on the left-hand panel, this is our display names. So this is what you see on the front end. This is what you navigate. The name column is what is the actual API name. So this is what we are going to use to query these records, to insert these records, or whatever operations that we are going to do inside MuleSoft. These are quick data types and some type, or whether they are required or optional, and like that. So there will be a lot of fields by default in all of these, and they have a slightly different like in Salesforce uses like a capital and a camel case to navigate to notify the field names, but it's all small case in Dynamics usually. So yeah, and if you go inside relationships, you will be able to see like what are the related fields in this particular object. Now this is a bit significant that will cover in the demo as well. So for example, created by, modified by, these all are related fields. So like if I create an account record, I am a user creating it. So the created by is me, and that's a relation with the user or owner table. So that's what those are the relationship tables, relationship fields that you can see here. And if you need anything else like business rules or views or charts or anything like that. So that's mostly about what we'll be doing in Power Apps. So I'll stop sharing the screen and we'll go to my PPT. All right. And again, all of these steps that I showed right now are in this PPT itself. So you need to go to Power Apps. Now, the first time you go inside Power Apps, it might prompt you to create a database. So you need to select the same, and there are just some next buttons. And this should initialize a sales lab with all of your out of the box fields and sample records so that you can navigate in a trial account. As I said, you need to go inside solutions and default solution to configure anything that we are discussing here. And these are all your entity informations where you can see what are the like let's say as I search with account, your display names, your API names, and your relationships as well. And the example is what I mentioned that we'll be covering in the demo as well, is that you cannot directly query them. You have to use a join or an expand, what Dynamics is, to go inside those fields and query those records. So okay, now we'll be going through some steps so that you can initialize a sales app and start using the Dynamics 365 CRM. Now, in order to do that, first I'll just breeze through the slides and just will be covering everything else in the demo. So in order to do that, first you have to go inside Power Platform Admin Center. As I said, it's not Power Apps, it's the Admin Center. You need to select an environment from the Admin Center and create a new environment in order to start with the demo. Once you do that, inside that created environment, you need to select the type as trial account. So by default, there will be multiple options like your sandbox, production, QA, and all those, and anything else is paid. So if you want a trial account, that this is the option that needs to be selected. And inside that config itself, you need to select this checkbox that says enable Dynamics 365 apps. So without these, you won't be able to see the sales apps. So if you don't have sales apps, you can't see the accounts or contacts or anything like that. So you need to enable Dynamics 365 apps first. So these are very, 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 very subtle steps that if you don't follow it, otherwise things don't work very well. So that's why I've covered all of these, small steps that you need to follow. Now, once done, you are inside the environment. You will see an environment URL. It might take some time to spin up the environment. Just do some page refreshes and all that. Once done, so this is your environment URL, and this is your data view per se. Like this is where you go and navigate the records, the environment URL. Now, if you click on that, you will see a lot of other options. Now, the one that we will cover here is Sales Hub, right? So as you know that Salesforce has a lot of clouds like Sales Cloud, Service Cloud, Health Cloud, Analytics Cloud, and all those. So similarly, these are different apps within Dynamics. So for today's purpose, we'll be focusing on Sales Hub or the Sales app. If you go inside Sales app, this is the UI of Dynamics, where you will see all your contacts, accounts, and leads, opportunities, and everything. So this is where you will probably navigate. The user will probably navigate here. All right. So yeah, I didn't want to spend much time on those. We'll just quickly go through to our MuleSoft connectors. Now, in order to use MuleSoft connectors, first we need to go is the Azure Active Directory and create an app. So in order to do that, first log into your Power Platform Admin Center. Again, not Power Apps. Power Platform Admin Center. There will be an option that will redirect you to Azure Active Directory. So click on that. Go inside Enterprise Applications, create your own application, and give it a name. Give it on how you want to access it. In most cases, if you are dealing with a single instance and a single user, you'll probably select only a single tenant and select the platform as web. That's optional. And skip that as well. Now this screen here, it's taken like around this screenshot here is taken like around 1 or 2 weeks back. And if you go inside Dynamics now, that I'll go there, it's already changed. So that's one of the most challenging part of Dynamics, where things change very, very frequently. So I'll now go in, I'll just replicate these steps and we'll see how that goes along. Okay, so I'll probably zoom in a bit. Yeah. Okay, so this is the Power Platform Admin Center, and how you are absolutely sure that this is what it is. The URL will say admin.powerplatform. If it says admin, it's the admin platform. Inside that, you'll see the environments created. So this is the first environment created. Now you probably need to create it via work account, and not a not a Gmail or something. So it will create a default environment that won't let you do anything per se. Now you need to go here and create a new environment. And as I said, you can select a lot of types here, and you can only select one trial subscription based application once done. And also you need to select this, create a new database, and everything that's there. Like if you are selecting Sandbox or something, in trial it's always created. So once your environment is created, you can go inside that. And once you are inside this is your data view of it, right? Now, if you go inside that, let's just give it a minute to load. Will not waste time. I'll just let it load, and we'll go through the other parts of it. As I said, so this will open your URL meanwhile it opens, and you will see your state as ready, and that's and only after that you can go inside your instance. You'll see that Dynamics 365 apps are enabled on the right side of your screen, and this is your database version and anything that you need for your admin purposes. So I'll just go here, I'll click on Sales Hub. And yeah, so this will open the Dynamics Sales Hub, and you can see your accounts, your contacts, and every records. So this is like the record view of Salesforce that you see when you are logging into Salesforce or a database. Now, all these admin things, you can also do it from a setup here from advanced settings, but it's much easier and much simpler to do it from an interface like Power Apps and Power Admins. Just go to all accounts. So these are like the list views of which are similar to Salesforce, where it's defaulted to my active accounts, whereas in Salesforce it's usually my recent accounts or recently viewed. So these are all your accounts and everything. You can go inside accounts and you can fill in details and delete those accounts. These are all the sample data that you will get once you log into once you create this instance. Okay, done. Now, if you want to go to Azure AD and create client ID secret for this app to connect to MuleSoft, so let's just go inside that. This will come. This will probably be collapsed when you open. So you just expand it and click on Azure Active Directory. It will take it. It will take it to your dashboard. And as I said, the UI has already changed. Kind of. So we go inside Enterprise Applications. And here you can create your apps. So this is one of the app that we'll be using. Now, if you want to create an app here, just go to New Application. And if you have an existing service that you want to connect to, it's probably not what we'll be using. So we'll just create our own application. Just give it a name like Meetup Demo. You can select integrate any other application you don't find in the gallery. That's anyways true. Or you can integrate it with Azure AD. So I'll just select it because it's an app I'm developing and it's not on-prem. So these all options were not there since like these are like very newly introduced options. Once you're inside that, you'll just see that. Okay, let's just select a tenant, a redirect URL if you want to, and if you want to do that, make sure it's selected to web. Once done, click on register. And if you go back to enterprise applications, you will be able to see your Meetup demo app too. Right. Now, the next steps in the slides will be to give it an API permission so that you can generate a client ID secrets. So those all were earlier inside the app. So when you go inside the app, what you'll be able to see is the application ID and the object ID of it. So these options were inside this app where it says an API permission dialog box, which is not here anymore. So where you need to go is in this all applications view, you need to go to consents and permissions and the permission classifications. And here you can add the permissions or the API permissions that you want to add for your app. So you can go to add permissions. You can request for the permissions that you need. So for this demo's purpose, you need to select Dynamics 365 CRM from here. And what you all need from here, you need to add it to your particular app. So that's what I'm not doing right now, as I already have an app built. But yeah, as I said, the UI has changed, and this is the kind of the new navigation. Everything else, the concepts remain same, just that the UI changes. So I'll just now once you have registered this application, you'll see an application ID, and your application ID is basically your client ID. And once you have enabled API permissions, you'll see a box to generate client credentials as well. So as I said, once you are inside this app, earlier there used to be an option where it select expose an API and assign roles and all that. This UI is probably not valid anymore. Now, once you are inside that, you need to click on this button where it says add certificate or secret after they have given the API permissions. And there you can generate a new client secret. Now, keep in mind that a client secret in Dynamics can be of 2 years of max validity. So after 2 years, it will anyways expire. That's the max you can select, 24 months. Now, once you do create that client secret, you'll see there are two options. One is a value and another is a secret ID. Make sure you select the value and not the secret ID. The value is the actual client secret that you need inside MuleSoft. Once done, as I said, give it the API permissions as it was like a previous step earlier. Now, once you have given all the permissions, once you have the client ID, once you have the client secret, and if you try to invoke your operation in your studio, will be going to studio as well. And if you try to do it at that point of time, you'll see this particular error that says the user is not a member of the organization, and the error type is Dynamics unauthorized, right? So again, if you clearly see it, it says 403 forbidden, and it's not a 401 unauthorized. So it's not unauthorizing us from the instance, just saying that our client ID secret is forbidden to access those resources. Now we'll be fixing that. In order to do that, you need to come back to your Power Platform Admin Center. So this part again, I'll just go back to our Power Platform window. So I'm just doing this ping pong so that we can visualize on what we actually have in the PPT. So I'll just share my screen again. Okay. So once you are inside Power Platform Admin Center again, go inside your environment like Meetup and click on this button called Settings. Once you are here, you'll see an option that says Users plus Permissions. Expand it, and you will see an option called Application User. So an application user is like an API only user in Dynamics. So it lets you lets the app act on your behalf so that it can access resources on an user's behalf. So if you go to an application user, the application user is not a person. It doesn't consume a license. It's an app. It's a bot. Now, a quick hack here is if you have already, so assuming that you have a large organization and there will be multiple apps or multiple application users. So if you want to add a new app user, you can do it from here. But just make sure that nothing is selected. So if you select here, of course, it just shows you option to deactivate and edit those. So be in the deselected option, then you will see a new app user option. Once you are inside here, you can add an app that's already there in your Azure ready. So as you can see, we have the Meetup demo app too. So I can enable this app. And again, this does not cost a license because it's not a person. Once done, you need to select your org and any security role you might want to give it. Like, for example, I have given it a system admin role. So we'll see system admin here. System admin. Now, once done, this is where your app becomes a part of your organization. And this is where you are not forbidden anymore to access Dynamics resources. This is a very, very required step, but this part is something that's missing from most of the documentations. So we'll just go back to our PPT and then we'll shift to the demo. Okay, so as I said, go inside settings, click on application users, click on the app, assign a business unit, and assign a security role to it as applicable. Now we'll be going to the studio from here onwards. So I'll just take a quick 5-minute break and try to see if someone has any questions.
So anybody have any queries? You can put in the chat. So I don't see any yet. Maybe you made it very clear and detailed.
Or was it too fast, or like should I keep my pace a bit lower?
No, I think it's perfect.
Yeah. But guys, please do let us know if you feel like Arnab is speaking too fast, or he needs to speak slowly,
Yeah.
so he can do that as well. I think Arnab, we can go ahead with the demo now, because we don't have any questions as of now. But guys, if you have any questions, please feel free to drop your questions onto the chat box, and Arnab, when we would be glad to answer those questions.
Sure. We'll just shift to the demo. Okay. Okay. I'll share my studio screen. I hope my studio is visible, right?
Yes.
Okay. Meanwhile, it deploys. So I have a few flows here that I'll be going through, and also I'll be going through the connector config as well. So let's just quickly go through the connector config first. Just expand it a bit. Okay. So there are three kind of options, three kind of connection options that you can select. One, regular connection, that's like a generic database connection. And okay, in terms of connector, so first we are using, so there are multiple connectors when you are considering a Dynamics integration. So if you go to search and exchange, and I'll just let it go, and if you search for Dynamics, come on, let me search. If you search for Dynamics, there are multiple connectors available, like the Business Central connector, the 365 connector, 365 CRM connector, AX2012 connector, NAV connector, GP connector, and Finance and Ops connector. So you need to select your connector based on your own use case. Now, CRM connector is something very specific to the Dynamics 365 CRM, but that's not something I'm going to use today. I'll just use the generic 365 connector that's applicable for ERPs and other systems as well that comes under the Dynamics 365 product. So there's not much difference between the 365 and CRM connectors. CRM is just CRM specific, so you need not specify any CRM specific properties. The regular 365 connector is a bit generic than that. But if you have a finance and operations use case, or if you have a NAV use case, that's something that those are the different connectors we have available here. The one that we are going to use is this one, Microsoft Dynamics 365 connector. Now I'll just quickly go through the connector config. Now inside the Dynamics 365 connector config, you have three kind of authentication options. One is connection, which is like a generic connection, client credentials grant, and username password grant. Now earlier in version 2.4, there used to be only username password and no client credentials. And as we all know, like client credentials is something that we need for server-based apps. I mean, username password is something that's tied to an user. So if that particular user leaves the organization, your integration stops working. So I'll just suggest everyone for, and that's not something related to Dynamics. So for any integration, we just should opt for client credentials always. It's not any user dependent. and that's what we'll be using here. Now, in terms of config, there's absolutely no difference in a client credentials config and a username password config. The only difference is you need to provide username password along with client ID secret in an username password with connections. But again, I'll just suggest just use client credentials grant. Now, username password grant won't need you to create that application user. That's what client credentials grant needs. Now, in that, you need to give your endpoint name here. So this is your instance name, the data view basically. Proxy, if you have something set up, which we don't need for this particular use case. Client ID, client secret, the ones that's received from Azure AD. The token URL, this will be pre-populated here in this connector. What you need to do is just put your instance ID here. And where do you find your instance ID? It's all there in the PPT. So if you go inside Azure AD, you will see an option called your tenant ID, and that's what you need to put here. Everything else, the rest of the URL will be pre-populated in the connector. And one more thing you need here is scopes. So in terms of scopes, what you need to provide is it's your endpoint URL along with .default. So if your URL is abc.dynamics.com, so scope is abc.dynamics.com/.default. So that's what we have here. And in terms of object store, it's client credentials grant, so it's going to anyways fetch a token every time. That's why I don't have a specific object store configured here. But yeah, if you want to retain the token, I'll suggest create a new object store config so that you can specify the entry TTL and expiration threads. Okay, so now once you have it here, you can just do a test connection of it. And it will show you test connection successful. Now it will be unsuccessful if you have not created that application user. Even if you have all the details, you are not an application user, it's not going to be successful. So that's all in terms of the connector config. Now I'll just quickly go through the flows, and I'll also show the inputs and outputs of those. So I'll just quickly have Postman here. And I don't know if we can zoom Postman. Don't think we can, but it's just that I have 5 listeners listening to flow 1, flow 2, flow 3, flow 4, flow 5, 5 different paths. Now, if I hit flow 1, I'll just go through the logs and what I have inside the transformers as well. Flow 1 will take a bit of time. Right. So what exactly is flow 1 doing? So and in terms of operations, so if you go inside Dynamics 365, so I'm mostly focusing on querying the records using different ways. So there are at least 3 different retrieve methods. One is retrieve multiple, and retrieve multiple by query. So I'll be going through each of these 3 and what they do and how should we configure these. Now, retrieve all accounts. So this is the first option. And in this, I run a query called select account ID, name, and account number from accounts. As I said, it follows web API configuration, should always be accounts. And the most important part here is it should be prefixed with a DSQL : syntax. Now, what is DSQL? When I initially started working with Dynamics, I thought it's okay, it's Dynamics SQL. That's what D is. It's not. It's data science query language. It's the connector specific language that's going to build a web API URL out of this query. Now I have a link to the data science query documentation, the MuleSoft specific documentation in the PPT itself that I'll go through. So what happens in data science query is this exact query is not going to work for Dynamics. There is a specific format that will come to Now this is a simplified version of that the connector will take this query in terms of in form of an SQL query, and they will convert it to what is compatible with Web API. That's what is data sense query language. And if you will see a small note here as well that says data sense query. Now it should always, and since data sense query language, to specify that it's a DSQL, you need to specify the DSQL colon prefix. Now there's another config that says page size and expand. Now expand is something that I have not used with this particular operation, but the page size by default it's probably set to 10, and I have set it to 2, right? And if you see that this is a config that does not work. So this is something that's the connector probably doesn't support, or it's a bug in the connector in the current version. So even if I have a page size of 2, I assume 2 accounts will come back. That's not the case. So you see my response, it's all accounts in the response in the instance. Now how do you do that then? You can just provide a limit 10 here, limit 10 clause. It's like you will do in any database query. That's what is retrieve all accounts operation. Now I'll just go through the and the prepare response payload. It does nothing. It's just converting it to JSON. That's it. Now, yeah, I don't think there's much anything else to cover here. So I'll just quickly go to the next flow. The next flow is the same operation, retrieve multiple by query, but this time I'm querying for a particular account ID. Again, a DSQL prefix, select account ID, your blah, blah, blah fields from accounts, where account ID is equals to this particular account ID that I retrieved. Now, one thing to note here is, unlike the Salesforce connector or database connector, there's no parameterization here. So if you want to parameterize these values, you have to take help of DataWeave. You don't have an option to do colon and ID and then supply it as a parameterized value to avoid any SQL injection or something like that. So you have to take care of that yourself. Now, if you hit this particular flow, I'll just do flow 2. This is the account details for that particular account ID. And again, the transformer is doing nothing, just simple application JSON transformer. Now, the next connector, that's the first one. That's a retrieve operation. That's only retrieve. Now, what retrieve does is you can provide an ID, and in logical name you can provide the entity name. And this time it's only the entity name, so it's singular. And you can provide an ID, and it will return you all the fields for that particular account or that particular entity. So if I hit flow 3 here, so this will give me a JSON of all the fields inside that account, inside that record. Now, I would not prefer this. The reason being, you might not need all of these fields, and I believe it's a recommended practice that unless we absolutely need that data, we should not retrieve that data. That gives a lot of latency overhead. That gives a lot of memory overhead. Instead, if you use a retrieve multiple by query and limit the fields that you want to retrieve, right? That's something that's more practical and save resources for you. Yeah, and yeah, I think this is one of the reasons why we have a REST versus GraphQL debate, where you in a regular REST API you might not be able to specify what fields exactly you need. Since we have a query-like option here, I think it's better to use that instead of this particular retrieve operation. But yeah, if you need to sync all the fields, yeah, then it makes more sense, since you do not have to specify any field labels there. Like if you do not know what fields do you need exactly, you can just retrieve all fields using this. So that's the operation here. Now, The last two are a bit complex, and I'll be using these two only: retrieve multiple by query, and the last one, the retrieve multiple operation. And I kept them a bit complex to just show you that you can write complex queries here in that Dynamics SQL. Right. So the first one, this uses the retrieve multiple by query or a data science query language. So what I have here is select account ID, name, and account number from accounts where account ID is greater than a particular ID. This is assuming that you might be watermarking a sync with account IDs, and email address equals to something, or status code equals to something. So there's a logical and a logical or operation. There's a where clause. There's a select, and at the end, I'm doing an order by, a limit 10, and an offset as well. So if you want to do any kind of pagination works, you can do it with Dynamics. If your integration needs that, you can limit it, you can offset it. But this is here to say that the data science query language supports only these operations and nothing else. So select, where, and, or, order by, limit, offset. This particular query uses everything. It's like a quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dogs kind of a sentence. It uses everything that data science query supports. Anything that's complex than this, like you might need a join, you might need a top, or anything like that, right? That's not supported via data science query language. These are the only operation that it supports. Now I'll just quickly open the documentation for that as well.
Okay, I do have a question here. So first is about in query, it's written like greater than or equal to that particular primary key. So at the back end, how it's working, like it's not a number or something which we say it's greater than or equal to. So what exactly checks when we say account ID is greater than? So is it checking something, the modified time, created time, or about that, or what?
No, it's a string check. It's a string check. So assuming that you have a synchronization kind of a use case where you are synchronizing the newly created accounts, and you need to retrieve the newly created accounts after a certain point of time. So you can do it with either time, of course. You can do it with, so there's a field called modified on and created on. You can, of course, do a greater than equals to from that. Or if you want to use account ID or any kind of ID as a watermark, it's basically a string check, a string comparison.
Okay, maybe like the account ID which are created after this account ID will be retrieved as part of this. Okay.
Yes.
And the second question I do have is, like, I'm a little bit, maybe I missed that. Like, why we cannot write this query in the retrieve all component, and what are the things which should be part of
does
retrieve all,
not support a query.
Okay, but we did write a query eventually there, right? Like selecting from an account.
Yeah, that's the exact same operation that's being used here.
Okay,
Like,
the first one
so there are
which we
three
use in
things, right?
flow one.
Yeah, that's the exact same connector being used here. It's just a bit more complex query.
Okay. Okay, got it. Maybe I was just confused with the name you gave, but I thought it's the operation name. Thanks for the clarification.
No. So these are the query operations. The one that does not let you write a query is the regular retrieve. That just takes an ID and just returns all the fields. Okay, so that's done. Okay. So I'll just go to the last one. That's probably the most important one, and was the most important one in terms of my use case. So I'll just full screen this data wave. Right. So here's what the retrieve multiple operation supports. So there's this one that's in the middle of this retrieve and buy query. So if you have a use case where you need to write a very complex query, like was my use case that I initially used. So in that case, you need to use the retrieve multiple option. Now, what that does is it takes a direct web API URL and hits that and gives you the data back. So this is something, it's like it will generate an URL. You can copy it directly to Postman, give it a token and hit that. And you can copy it back from Postman, put it here and get the results. It's going to create an URL like using a host, a path, and query params. That's what we are doing here. And the earlier operations where we directly used to write queries like select account ID from accounts, this kind of an URL is what is going to be generated in the backend. So if we go inside that, what we need is first a resource URL. Maybe it's not properly visible. I'll share my other screen so that it's a bit more visible. I think it's much better now. Okay. So what we need here is first a resource URL that is your instance URL, which is this one. So I have segregated them in terms of different variables because this is something that's going to create a very long URL, which is hard to read. So in order to maintain readability, and also if you want these to be parameterized, like if you want to take them from an user input or you want to read them from properties, so you can just format it like this so that it's just easier to read and maintain. So first you need a resource URL, and then you need to add the base path of that particular API. It's API/data. Then you need to provide a version. So for example, I'm using the version 9.1 of Web API. They need to give it an entity name. So again, this is using Web API. So it needs to be in plural. So accounts. Once done, so this is your host part. Now with question mark, we'll be just adding the query params. And the query params, they follow a kind of a database syntax with a dollar prefix. So it's going to be $select, and then you need to provide a comma separated list of fields that you want to retrieve. For example, I have account ID, account number created on, and these kind of fields here. Next is filter. So filter is like a where clause. So anything that you want to filter. So for example, I have a filter here that says modified on GE and a timestamp. Now this is what I've documented here as well, because these are like dynamic specific terms and it's good to document them. So GE stands for greater than or equals to. Similarly, you have LE, EQ, and those kind of operations. And if you want to see those, this is the documentation link for that. So done. So that's what is select fields and filters. Now we have to come to expand fields. So expand as field is something where we will perform join operations. So let's say I need to see who created this record. So I need to join with the user table. User is called as an owner here in Dynamics. So I need to join with owner table, and that's where expand comes handy. So you need to provide the syntax like this. So you need to provide the field name or the relationship name that you want, that's created by. So this is going to perform a join between accounts and the created by, like for the created by, it's going to perform a join with owner table. And within owner, you can provide a subquery inside that to select a particular field. Now this is optional. If you don't specify this one, is going to return all the fields or all the data related to that particular user. So, and system user ID is like the primary key for the owner table. So it's going to return the user ID of, if I created it, so it's going to return the user ID of my account. Or if you want to put a first name or last name, you can just provide a comma separated list here so that it will directly see who created those records. Similarly, you can do modified by, or you can do an owner ID Now, an owner and a creator of a record is different. By default, if you create a record, you are the owner and you are the creator. But assuming that there's maybe a lead or maybe an opportunity created, you can create it and then you can assign it to someone else. So you are the creator and the currently assigned user is the owner. So these are some of the examples of which fields you can expand. And I'll say that if you are doing this query, provide a select field so that it retrieves only particular informations and not all of it. And a quick thing to remember here is you can only join 10 fields at a time. So this is a hard limit in Dynamics, and the documentation says that it's for performance reasons. Joining more than 10 tables in a single query is going to have performance side effects. So they only allow joining 10 tables at a time. Now, next is top. Top is something that's like again, it follows MS SQL syntaxes. So it's like the limit on how many records you want to limit. So let's say I have top 10 here. And order by is just sorting. So order by which field and order by which format. So for example, I'm sorting by account ID and in an ascending format. So once you do this, it's going to generate a huge URL with this resource URL and entity names and the fields and all that. So I'll show that in Postman as well. So let's take Postman here. Now, if you go inside this, for example, so this is how the field will be. This is how your URL would look like. That data we will generate your resource URL, API/data, the version, the accounts table, the select fields, the expand fields, or if you want a top, if you want an order by, or anything like that. You can just directly query this and it will give you the response for those related accounts. And this is the same thing that will be performing from our flow. So as I said, you can just copy and paste from and to Postman this direct URLs. You can just put it, you can copy this, put it in retrieve multiple operation and it will execute, or you can copy that back from here in Postman. Only thing it needs is a token. That's it. So first, I'll just quickly hit flow 4 that we had with the complex DSQL. So I'll hit that first. So as I already explained, it's going to return all the it's going to return all the fields that I have specified with accounts, limit, and offset and all that. I think I had a limit 10, so it returned 10 records. And the last one is flow 5. And this is what it returns. So this is what this data would look like. And again, I had a lot of fields here in select that I don't have inside MuleSoft. So these are the fields that I had selected. And these are the records that I selected. So I select a system user ID, and owner ID is something, if you are joining a table, that's returned by default. So even if you don't query this, it's going to return it. So owner IDs will anyways come back. So yeah, and this is the thing to remember here, that with this kind of a response, you cannot directly put it in an end system. You cannot directly map it to, you cannot do 1:1 mapping. You have to specify, okay, within this created by object, whether you need a system user ID or an owner ID. So this kind of you have to flatten this data, and you have to do a reduce operation to make it bit flattened so that you can sync it with any other system, if that's your use case. Okay, so yeah, and this is what it's doing. It's just going. I'm putting everything in payload and I'm passing it in payload. And as I said, page size does not have an effect here in this connector, and there's nothing in response. It's just response payload. And if you go to our logs, you'll see that, okay, this thing is, I'm logging the payload, and I go a bit up. So these are the requests that it's doing. Slowly go on. Yeah, so it received it in flow 5, and this is the request that it performed, and this is the response that came back. So this is the start logger, and this is the payload logged. Okay, so yeah, that's mostly it in terms of the demo. Now I have a few other points to cover in terms of dynamics, some miscellaneous points. But again, I'll take a quick 5-minute break if someone has any questions.
So, Vikas, have a request like you want to see the connector configuration. Can you please go through it one more time?
Sure. I will share this screen. Yeah. Right. So here's the connector configuration. You can select which kind of an authentication you want. I have client credentials here. So client ID, client secret, the token URL, and this is the tenant ID of that. And the scope that I said is resource URL /.default. So anything on here, and if you select what username password, you need to give the exact same fields: the client ID, secret, the token endpoint, the resource URL, and everything else, along with a username password. As I said, it's going to be tied to that particular user.
Okay, yes, Vikas. So, how to get all these configuration is covered in the initial part of this session. So we have this session recorded. We'll be sharing it over LinkedIn. You can refer it at later point of time.
Yeah. Everything of this on how to retrieve this, where to go, where to navigate, everything is covered in as part of the PPT. Thanks, Chetan. Thank you.
Okay. So Kushag is saying we send the query in the payload to parameterize it as the connector does not support variables, right?
Sorry, what was that? But we send the query in
You can
payload
check the
to
chat.
parameterize it as a connector does not support variables, right? No, it's like so you can directly pass it as a literal string in the connector, right? Why I'm doing it inside a transformer is just to make it more readable, and it's just easier to explain that way, right? If I hard code a query, it's going to execute that only, right? So yeah, I mean it's not wrong. So your point is as correct as well. So yes, you cannot, does not support parameterizing that way that the other connectors support. So yeah, you have to do it in a transformer. You have to add variables in that. Yes, that's right. Thank you. So Chetan, shall we go ahead with the last part of it?
Yes, please.
Okay. Yeah. I will. Again. Okay. So as I showed, there are different read operations performed. And now I have a couple of slides to say that the quick things to remember when you are working with Dynamics, not related to any concepts or in just random order. So first, as I said, the DSQL stands for Data Science Query Language, which is limited in scope, but it's easier for quick development so that you don't have to create all those URLs. You don't have to make it complex. So the use case is simple, just keep it simple. Retrieve multiple, the last operation that I showed in Flow 5 that uses Web API URL. So that can be copy pasted to and from Postman or any list client to Studio. Here's the Web API documentation. that you can check on what are the fields or how you can configure Web API. The documentation of Web API is on a per entity basis. So it's like you have to select which particular entity you want to explore to explore the documentation. And if you need that, you want to know a particular attributes, particular operations, or any kind of restrictions, because these are the standard objects, right? And as you might know, Salesforce also has some restrictions and some things that are specific to standard objects or standard entities, or in Dynamics it's default solutions. So for those, the below link, this is the one to refer. And if you see the URL, it actually says customer engagement. This is what I started the session with. That says CE is the exact same thing as Dynamics 365 CRM. It says customer engagement on premise, but the same concepts will apply for our connector as well. Now, there's another entity called audit. Audit is something that's needed. I'll tell you why we need it on the next slide. But there's another entity called audit that lets you retrieve the audit logs on what happened or who changed what or something like that. So that's also a feature in Dynamics. Now, any lookup field. Now, this is a very strange operation. So any lookup field, I'll probably show it with a demo as well. That's supposed to be a part of an expand parameter. For example, created by or owner, right? That's that record is in a separate table connected with a foreign key, right? If you supply that field inside a select operation, inside $select parameter, it's not going to raise any error. It will just silently drop that field from the response. It's going to ignore that. So there's no error in that. So just keep that in mind, that if you pass an expand field in select, it's not going to return the data. It's not going to raise an error as well. But if you do the reverse of it, like you have a select field, like let's say first name, and you provide it in expand, that's going to raise an error that, okay, it's not a navigational property. So that it does not link to another table. So that's one of the things that this is what I found while exploring Web API. Now, Dynamics 365 CRM can return unwanted fields in the response, even if not provided in either select or respond. So as we are very, we get very familiar with the Salesforce and database concepts. So if I do select ID from accounts, I know only ID is coming back. Whereas in some of the objects, let's say audit, let's say leads, some of the objects, there are some fields that you do not query, but Dynamics will return those. Now, if you have a 1:1 synchronization use case where you get a bunch of fields from Dynamics and you have to synchronize that with another end system, that end system will probably not have that field because it's not expecting that. So it's going to break that. So always keep in mind so that either your end system is designed that way to handle that field, or your data weave handles that and removes that from the query. So this is a thing with Dynamics. I'll probably cover that in the audit object as well. Now, why we need audit? So anything that you delete inside Dynamics is always a hard delete. There's no recycle bin concept. You cannot retrieve the records once deleted. So if you delete a record in Salesforce or in a database, you can probably roll back it. If you delete it in Salesforce, there's a flag called is deleted. You can do a soft delete and then restore from that is deleted flag. In Dynamics, so this is a screenshot of the dialog that if you do delete, this is what it will show that, okay, this account, this action cannot be undone. So you cannot undo this action. And it will delete all the related accounts as well. Related records as well with that particular account, like that. So in order now, if you have a use case where you need to know that, okay, which are the fields or which are the records that has been deleted, that's where audit comes in. Now you have to enable audit. So keep that, probably it's a bit out of scope for this discussion, but audit is not enabled by default in Dynamics. you have to explicitly enable it from the Power Platform Admin Center. You can just search with how to enable auditing in Dynamics, and that's going to show you how you do audits in Dynamics. I'll just quickly show on how audit works. I have a deleted account, and that's what I'm going to retrieve using Postman. And
So meanwhile, Arvind is asking, like, do we have any training videos for MuleSoft Office 365 integration?
I am not aware of that. If there's
I
any
guess we can
official,
refer this one
training.
once we upload this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Okay.
as I said, so this is the web. Sorry, Chetan. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, it just because I want a confirmation. What are we using? A dynamic CRM connector or 365? Looks like Kushagra already answered that. Like in this use case, we are using the generic 365 connector, but it depends on the use case also, right? Which one to pick up. So maybe you can just share some words with Vikas.
Yes. So it as I said, it depends on your use case. You can go ahead with the Dynamics 365 connector, 365 CRM connector. But last time I remember using it, it did not have a support for client credentials grant. That's why I did not use it. But if it does now, I don't think there's any difference in terms of connections that these connectors have. So you can use that, or you can use the generic one as well. Either of these works. It's just that the CRM connector has some fields pre-populated for you, but it supports the exact same operations of retrieve multiple by query, retrieve multiple web APIs. It's the exact same concept. So if needed, you can use that. And as I said, it depends on your use case, your authentication method, and all that. Okay. So, Dylan, do we have anything else? Or we'll just quickly talk
No,
about
we
it.
are good. Thanks for answering those.
Okay. Thank you. So, yes, here's a collection for Dynamics. Now, for each request, I've written a pre-request script that retrieves me a token, which is basically these scripts, these requests. So this is a request to get a token using resource. So you can supply a resource. A resource is something is your resource URL. So this will give you a token as well. Or if you want it, and this is an all scope token kind of, so it gives you access to your whole organization or whole instance. Whereas if you want it to be specific to scopes, like for example, I'm using the default scope here. So you can also make it scope specific. This will also give you a token. And this is the exact same request I have in pre-request script. Now, using this, you can do a lot of things. Like, for example, here, this particular request where I am requesting this particular entity. So this entity itself is called entity definitions. Like in Salesforce also, we have this object. If you want to retrieve any object-specific details using an API, you can write a query to on this particular object in Salesforce also. Entity definitions to retrieve details about a particular entity, or field definitions to retrieve about a particular field. So what this particular query does is it queries entity definitions with a logical name of contact. Logical name is API name. So this will retrieve the fields that are in contact object or entity. And if you normalize this whole payload everywhere, it will give you a display name of every field. For example, email, and this logical name is what is the API name for that. This is just to see what are the fields available that you can also see from Power Apps. There is another way of doing it via the API. Same way, you can call this object also, so entities, and you can get details for that particular object as well. Like for example, it's account object. What are its physical name? What are its collection names, and all those informations. You can all get this from the UI, but this is just a way of doing it from the API. Accounts query, this I already showed. Let's just quickly come to audits. So yeah, in terms of audits, it's an object, so you have to enable it. You have to first enable it from Power Platform Admin Center. For that instance to have auditing enabled. Once done, you can go to audits, and you can do similar type of queries. So for example, I'm querying here with an operation equals to 3. Now, if you go inside audit documentation, you'll see it supports some fields called operation, which accepts an integer value like 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. There's probably 20 or 30 values, or maybe more or less. So the operation equals to 3 stands for deleted records. That's a hard specified operation that the API supports. And I have a few filters as well with and, like it should be created on greater than this particular timestamp, and the object type code refers to which entity was that for. So I need let's say I want to retrieve deleted records from account object before this timestamp or after this timestamp. I mean greater than this timestamp. I want to retrieve only one record. So if I hit this, and I'm ordering it with object ID value ascending, so you will get a response like this. Okay. Now, if you see in this response, as I earlier mentioned, even if you don't query these, like I don't have a select field, so I'll just do a select, and I'll do an audit ID. If you do that, it's not going to return only audit ID. It will also return transaction ID and attribute mask, which are probably not needed for us. I don't know what they stand for exactly, but it's going to return those. So if you're doing a 1:1 integrations, this is kind of a scenario where it breaks those integrations. So I'll just move it for now. And in this particular response, you'll see this particular value called object ID value. So this was the account ID when it was deleted, and this is the user ID of who deleted this record. The operation is 3. We already specified it. Operation 3 is for deletes, because this is audit, right? It audits everything. It audits creation, deletion, updation, or anything that changes. And this is an audit ID for that. So yeah, that's the audit object. And again, it's not enabled by default, so I have to enable it first. So yeah, that's the last part of this session. I'll just stop sharing, and yeah, that's it. I'll just wait if someone has any questions.